Yes, so just if you haven't come before and if you would like to ask a question, if you can just reach out to Ray because he is the person who organizes the order. So that would
I
be
got
great.
Jeffrey too.
So, say that again.
I have Jeffrey too.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, good on you. Good on you, Ray. Hey, curious Jeffrey, if you're watching, we have put you in. Okay, so I'll get going. Greetings, this is Zariyah from the Orion civilization. We are also here with the ancient dragon collectors. We are so pleased that you have gathered at this time to hear a brief transmission all about abundance. The idea that we would like to share with you, as so many fixed points on your timeline seem to be shaking up, is that it is a perfect opportunity to shake up any fixed ideas that you have about abundance. And we would like to bring into the transmission the idea of a leprechaun, the mischievous Celtic creature. The leprechaun often is depicted in your mythologies and is met on the paths of those who are so fortunate to cross them as a cobbler, as a shoemaker. And the mythology goes that if you are able to capture the leprechaun, he will take you to his pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. How exciting! Although many have claimed to have caught the leprechaun, few have been the beneficiaries of his pot of gold. And this is no mistake, no accident. The leprechaun energy represents the idea that if you fixate on abundance that is physical, it can also be illusory. The idea of the leprechaun as a cobbler is that he is a manifester, he is a magician of the third dimension, but he has his feet firmly on the ground. He recognizes abundance where he stands. And the idea of the leprechaun is that he is able to trick the human beings who would seek to strip him of his wealth by having them focus on an illusory abundance that is somewhere that doesn't exist, that not existent place being a physical space at the end of a rainbow. Most of you would be familiar with the idea of a rainbow looking in the sense of a mirage, like an arc that begins at one point and ends at another point. But in actuality, it is a collection of particles reflecting light through the color spectrum, creating a beautiful illusion of something solid that is, in fact, not solid at all. It is a perfect representation of the third dimension. And as you move into the fourth dimension, and we will say you are already there, you are starting to recognize physical reality, much like a rainbow, that from a distance, and if not interrogated or examined too closely, if not scrutinized too closely, it looks solid. But as you try to catch it with your hand, you realize that it is not a physical object, that it is an illusion. And the third dimension is like this. And therefore, trying to catch abundance in the third dimension, you put your hand through the smoke and mirrors, and you find yourself touching an illusion. What the real abundance of the fourth dimension is to realize, is to see with real eyes, the true abundance that you have always had, that you are eternal, that there is no non-existence, that there is no scarcity, that the universe is infinite, that you are multidimensional, and that you are immortal. And these are the principles of scarcity that really drive the physical mind towards the wanting to capture some type of physical abundance in the third dimension. But as you walk into the fourth dimension, knowing that it is all an illusion, what you can do is shore up in yourself the recognition, the realization that you are an instruction in never-ending, ever-unfolding abundance, and that you can never become scarce, and that scarcity is, like the rainbow, an illusion of the third dimension, and that as you really get up close to it and examine it, it disappears. And therefore, next time you feel scarcity tapping you on the shoulder, we would ask you to call in the magic of your Celtic friends and have them remind you to keep your feet on the ground in this fourth dimension, where you know that scarcity is an illusion and the abundance is you. We hope this transmission does help you in understanding all about abundance. And if there are questions, we are happy to answer them at this time.
Jenny?
Yes, I've been thinking a lot lately about, well, I've thought all my life about nature and the amazing balance of forces, all the critters and plants that are perfectly suited to their environment. And I'm wondering if you could enlighten us on how that happened. Who's responsible for building that and giving us such a wonderful gift?
Yes, well, the often two contrary principles that are referred to as perfect partners in your cosmos are order and chaos. But we would say that that is a slight misinterpretation, and that the perfect partners are chaos and harmony. Harmony is the sweet spot where all things operate in a perfect synchronism, recognizing the unique individuality and perfect contribution of every being to the ever unfolding tapestry of existence. And that creates a miraculous, and indeed, when we say miraculous, we mean the miracle of harmony. How is it that such unique and different forms of life, forms of consciousness can fit so perfectly together, can find such a happy chorus. And it is because that is the perfect expression of the uniqueness and togetherness of all that is. It is the perfect expression of the paradox that is the I am individual and I am the whole. And it is well that you can recognize this outside of yourself, because once you recognize it, it's outside of yourself, you understand that that unconditional love and appreciation that you can share with or for the uniqueness of all different types of creation and consciousness also includes you, that your very unique expression of life is also a perfect contribution to the fabric of all that is, and that there is not another soul in all eternity that can express itself just like you and that fits into the fabric of existence just like you. How exciting. We would also have you recall that you have mentioned counterparts who have that very unique closeness with and understanding of working in harmony with nature as a pioneer. But in many counterpart lifetimes, you have taken different expression of this, including doulas and shaman and other beings who have worked very closely with the natural rhythms and cycles of the earth as you would understand it, or the environment in which your counterparts were in as they would understand it. It is one of the most divine expressions and greatest joys of your oversoul to express your unique self in harmony with all that is. How beautiful and how exciting. Does that help?
So there wasn't a group of beings that created these animals and plants for us?
Well, in a sense, they are part of the ever unfolding expression of source in different forms. If you mean, was the world or Gaia created in 7 days by a monotheist God, that is a somewhat religious interpretation of the creation of all of the beings that you share your environment with. All things are soulful. Therefore, in that sense, all animals, all flora, all fauna, all the elements have their own constitutive, somewhat different to human, but soul essence. And they are experiencing and expressing their consciousness and expressing source from their own point of view. And therefore, it is not that they are made separate from you, but they are another expression of source energy through the individualization of their own soul process, much like yourself. There is also, if you can hold these two ideas in your head at the same time, the idea that you have, in fact, created all these beings as a reflection of your own experience, and that they all exist inside of the illusion that your soul has created. In reality, it is a co-creation of both. You are creating the being that you rest your eyes on, and the being is creating a version of you also. And that is the really, truly miraculous depth of the harmony, the co-creative harmony that the universe instinctively unfolds into. It is really, again, another experience that defies language, trying to encapsulate all of the multiple expressions and consciousnesses and agreements that go into your single interaction with another being. And many beings on your planet so casually will walk past a tree without realizing the enormous co-creative set of synchronicities and miracles that have gone into putting both yourself and the tree in that moment. It is really, in one sense, the rabbit hole that is the seeking to understand the mystery of creation, manifestation, and existence. And also it is, if you choose to view it like that, more evidence of the abundance, the never-ending synchronicity, the never diminishing creative power of you in your reality. Does that help?
Yes, that does help. Thank you.
You are so welcome.
Hello, Zariyah.
Hello.
Thank you so much for all this deep knowledge and information that you give us every time. Forever grateful for that.
You are so welcome. We are so grateful for the reflection and co-creation.
Great. And also hello to Ariala. Lately, I feel I'm not having a lot of conversation with her.
Yes. Well, she is always available to you. She is always around you, as close as your next thought.
Oh, wonderful. So I would, if you can scan my chakras and, my energy centers and let me know, which chakra should I work on for better communication, better health, and more, energy in life.
Yes, we are seeing that your chakras in general look well. There is some, we would say, clearing that you could do around the throat chakra. The throat chakra tends to represent your expression in the reality that you have created for yourself. And often it represents some resistance between the higher mind and the physical mind and the emotional body. And in a sense, the best way to clear the throat chakra is to, if you can, pause for some moments each morning and allow your physical mind to quiet down, and that will clear the channels between your throat chakra and your higher mind. The physical mind can often act as somewhat of a filter between the higher mind and the expression of the throat chakra. There can be some breathing exercise also that you can do to breathe out through a slack open mouth, in through the nose, holding, and out through a slack open mouth, just to clear the throat chakra. In fact, the process of channeling is about quieting the physical mind and allowing messages to come through the higher mind and out through the throat chakra. And there is a breathing process to that, the slack open mouth, that often assists in that endeavor. And in a sense, of course, you are also channeling daily. And so it is important that you try to keep that channel clear and open so that you can pull your messages through and out. That is how you practice receiving stronger, clear communication. Does that help?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much.
You are so welcome.
Greetings, Zariyah.
Hello.
I have a question regarding daydreaming or visualization. Could you please enlighten me on this topic, please?
Yes, daydreaming. You are daydreaming your daydream. If that helps, it is all a dream. The idea that you live in a country where the cultural tradition of dream time has been most pronounced is because there has been for many millennia in the land that you are on, the idea that your waking reality is in fact a dream, and that you will wake from your dream when you transition. And therefore, the more that you are able to daydream, the more you are able to get in touch with the idea that it's all a dream. The purpose of visualization has been discovered by many creative people on your planet who have been able to recognize that in some respects they are creating their own reality, and that through the process of visualization they are able in fact to channel an idea down from their higher mind, hold it in the physical body in the third dimension, and watch the physical experience arrange itself around that vision. And we would say that is, yes, one way to recognize that you are in a malleable reality. However, as you move into the fourth dimension, what will happen is there will be a complete bleeding in of your non-physical reality and your physical reality. It won't be so clunky as having to visualize something, hold on to the idea, and then drag physical reality into compliance. What you will recognize, what you will realize is that this illusory reality is far more malleable than you had thought. And in that sense, you are able to dream it up consciously, which is the joy of the fourth dimension. Does that help?
It does. Thank you.
You are so welcome.
Hi, Zariyah.
Hello.
In the last month or so, I have felt a great deal more fear than I have for most of my life.
Yes.
And a lot of this has to do with the political situation in the United States.
Yes.
In fact, I've found myself using the words horrified and terrified, and I don't usually use those words in my everyday existence. And yet I have felt horror and terror at what I'm very much afraid of is happening in the United States and in many other parts of our world.
Yes.
I would like to hear your comments on that, and also if you could tie this in with your opening theme of scarcity, that would be really, really helpful, because I'd like to be able to interpret it through that lens also. Thank you.
Yes. Yes, well, we are aware that as you move through towards the end of what you would consider 2024, there is still structures that you have psychologically depended on for much of your third dimensional experience that will come unstuck, if we can put it that way. And we are aware that this can cause some discomfort. But what we would have you recognize that should ease your discomfort is the idea that what is really coming unstuck is the illusion of control that the third dimension did offer you. That the idea that there were institutions or systems that were anchoring the third dimension into a tangible, dependable, constant reality. But those illusions do, it's not, in a sense, if we can rephrase it, that they need to collapse. It is the idea that you have already let them go on one level. You have moved past them. You have understood that there is more for you to experience in the fourth dimension than in the third dimension. You have understood that you are multidimensional, that you are eternal, that you are a spirit having a physical experience, that you have counterparts, that you have galactic brethren. You have understood this. And if you were, in a sense, to try to put yourself back in a third dimensional box, we hate to tell you, you wouldn't fit. And you wouldn't like it very much either. That does not mean to say that as the box crumbles away from you and you, in a sense, emerge from your cocoon, that it is not a triggering, if we can use that word, experience, because all of a sudden the rail guards of the third dimension fall out of reach, and you realize that you are really co-creating your reality. You really are free. You really are responsible for your experience, and you really have all of the power that you could ever have in the action of raising your vibration through the power of focus. And that can indeed be a destabilizing recognition. There are many beings on your timeline who will choose to try to fortify the third dimensional reality, try to reaffirm the third dimensional reality, and will, in a sense, travel down that timeline. And while you are observing them doing that, we would encourage you to recognize that if you could even choose to travel down the path of reaffirming the third dimension, reaffirming the path of limitation, you possibly wouldn't enjoy it as much as the path of expansion. If we could do an experiment with you, would you prefer a reality that feels safe but small, or expanded but filled with the unknown? What does that raise in you?
I feel caution, and I also feel like I would always vote for expansion.
There is your higher mind whispering to you, expand, expand. And the caution that you feel is your physical mind saying, into what? And we will tell you that there is nothing to fear in the expansion into the unknown, because all you will really find is more evidence, more recognition, more realization that you are source energy and you are more powerful in creating your reality than you ever could have imagined. And that journey never ends. It never reaches a pinnacle. It is always unfolding into more and more empowerment, more and more recognition, more and more love, more and more freedom. How exciting. But there are insistent voices from the physical mind because the physical mind doesn't want to be left behind. We understand the physical mind has done a fantastic job in the third dimension. However, as you move into the fourth dimension, you need to sit down with your physical mind and say, I appreciate you. I still need you in the fourth dimension, but I am moving forward where there is expansion into more of all that is and nothing to be feared. So thank you for your service, and let's go together. If you prefer, you can try to reassociate yourself with the third dimension for a little while. We hazard a guess, reading your energy, that it is probable that you will find it very claustrophobic and not the security that you had once thought that it was. And in that sense, we can draw your attention to the idea of the illusory nature of the third dimension, the illusory nature of the rainbow. The third dimension offers what is a beautiful idea that you are safe in your small box, but we will have you know that you recognize once you have outgrown it, that it's only an illusory box that doesn't provide any safety, but just keeps you small. If you can allow yourself to recognize that as you move into the fourth dimension, the uncertainty and discomfort that you feel is natural, but lean into your higher self. Lean into the trust that you feel through all of the experiences that you have had in the perfect unfolding of the ever expanding now moment. And you will find as you step into it that you are safer in expansion than you could ever be in limitation. Does that help?
Yes, and tremendously. Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to listen to that again and again because I think I need to hear it again and again. That was so beautiful in so many ways. It brought tears to my eyes and joy to my heart. Thank you.
Yes, we will have you know you don't need to listen to us again and again. It is your own higher self that is acting as a lighthouse for you to move forward, to move expansively forward into the fourth dimension, that you are safe, that you are free, that you are home.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, Zariyah.
Hello.
This is my first time speaking with you at one of these, and I'm really excited. One thing that I really appreciate about your messages is you bringing the Orion perspective, which for me, like I think you've said, shows the beauty and the learning that can come from such dark paths that we've had a similar experience with on Earth.
Yes.
And it feels really empowering and like, oh, yes, we can choose positive, but there's a reason we chose the negative also. Like that's an equally valid path. And it makes me feel more like there's a purpose for for some suffering. And yeah, I really appreciate that perspective.
Yes, well, we would say there is no light without dark. They are perfect complements. And that if you are willing to embrace the dark your light can shine brighter than you could ever imagine. It is just the physics of matter. There is dark matter and there is light because of it.
Yeah, thank you. I had a quick question that feels most important to me today, which is, I wonder if you can sense like my main guide, spirit guide, and I've wanted to connect with them or him or her or they for a long time, and I'm wondering if you can give me a message from them or give me a clue to better connect with them.
Yes. We would not say this is necessarily your main guide in your timeline that you are walking now. However, when you started speaking, we had the image of a diamond turning, almost as if it was on a pendulum string, turning. And that diamond was used as the focus of a meditative process of one of the masters of illumination, your counterpart in the Orion system, focusing on the diamond until it became an inner turning, a methodical inner turning, reflecting light out of the being who was meditating on the diamond. As you started speaking, we felt this experience in the Orion system, and we saw the diamond also turning in your heart. You spent many years meditating in the Orion system to become someone who could refract light from inside of yourself. And you have that within you in this timeline now. And you, to an extent, recognize that as a gift that you have brought to this timeline now. You're understanding that the darkness is the perfect place from whence you can project light, is the understanding that you came to share on this timeline and in this period of transition as the beings who share the timeline with you, moving into the fourth dimension and eventually contact, become enlightened on their respective paths. Therefore, if you can meditate on a turning diamond, this should help you to channel the energy of your Orion counterpart and spread that light as you move through your timeline now. Does that help?
So much. Thank you so much. It really resonates because I've been very into rainbows and prisms lately in my life, and that makes a lot of sense, those connections. So thank you so much, Zariyah.
You are so welcome.
Hi, Zariyah. I want to thank you so much for the transmission today. I absolutely loved it. I can't wait to try it. Just the image of the rainbow dissipating, I thought it was a really beautiful metaphor. So thank you for that.
Yes.
Yeah, my question today is about astrology. So lately I've been called to go down some rabbit holes, around my chart, and being the inquisitive. Yeah, being the inquisitive person that I am, I'm always, asking why and wanting to really understand. So yeah, my question is, how, let's take Saturn, for example. How is it that, if you were to take the place in the sky where Saturn was vis-a-vis my position, my place of birth, my time of birth, the position that I was born in on Earth, how does that, set me up for my relationship with, structure and authority for the rest of my life and so on. Like how does the energy around that work? And yeah, I realize that like for me, I'm speaking in a kind of like time space, the time space perspective that we have now. So it'd be really interesting to like how, I guess, like outside of time space reality with coordinates. Anyway, yeah, how does that work?
Yes, well, we recognize and understand that there are certainly archetypal forces in your experience. And these archetypal forces or themes are something that you choose to explore in your lifetimes. And therefore, being born at a certain time during certain alignments is a reflection often of the theme that you would loosely have chosen to explore. However, we would not go so far as to say that there are any astrological forces that dictate the unfolding of your life experience. It is more a wink and a nod, a synchronicity from the universe that you can recognize the appearance of certain themes and archetypes in your experience. And we would say that the intuition to go down rabbit holes, as you describe them, is a very exciting one, because the vibrational essence of curiosity and excitement are very close, very similar. And the idea that you would feel curious to explore a certain theme is evidence of your heart from your higher self that you are on the right track. If you can think of the childlike game hot and cold, where you are moving towards an idea and your higher self is saying warmer, warmer, warmer. It is the thrill of grappling around in your reality and finding something that resonates and represents a certain type of puzzle piece to show you more of who you really are. And in that sense, the exploration of any type of astrology is an avenue with which you can unpack some of the themes and ideas that you have chosen to explore, which help to reveal to you more of who you really are. We would say there is a saying that curiosity killed the cat, but there's a reason the cat has 9 lives. Does that help?
It does. It does. And it's so funny. Yeah, you just my life. Like I'm all about rabbit holes one after the other, and it
Yes.
doesn't really end. So
Yes.
yeah, it's been a lot. So yeah.
And it never will end.
Yeah. So thank you so much. That just helped. Yeah. Yeah.
You are so welcome.
Hi, Zariyah. I just wanted to make a comment. I was going to ask a question for Curious Jeffrey, but he happens to be here now, so he can ask himself.
Yes.
I just wanted to make a comment that you previously had let me know about when the time frame about when my brother who died in last December would contact me, and that happened today, just within your timeline. So we got to spend a couple of hours going through some stuff. Thank you very much.
Thank you for co-creating for yourself a perfect synchronicity.
Mehu?
Hello, Zariyah.
Hello.
Okay, so my question is about staying in the states of being that you prefer, like
Yes.
joy, excitement, passion, just being authentic and expanded and expressing more of yourself just automatically in those states.
Yes.
And so I decided to try and find the most efficient means possible to achieve that, because
Yes.
it's like when I went about doing certain things to try and induce a state,
Efficient. Are you
Yeah.
running out of time?
It's more like uh it's more like the state, when I enter the state, it wanes quickly before I can take action to ground it into reality. So I try to find more efficient ways to increase the amount of time that I'm in the state before it wanes. And I decided that the most effective way to do it for now is to just choose to be in the state. And I have questions about any advice you could give me about how to, once you're in the state, to get it to like really permeate. And what I mean by permeate, it's sort of like how when you're playing video games, you get locked in sometimes. And it's like all you can think about while playing video games is video games. Even after you're done playing the video game, it just permeates so strongly. I'm wondering how I can do the same thing, likewise, with other states of being I prefer. Like I know music can do it, but if you do it way too much, the effect wanes again. But for some other things, for some reason, like video games, it does not wane as quickly. So when I just, in my own state, waking up in the morning, choose to be in a state of joy, how can I get it to permeate? Like I have an idea where I sort of drum it up. What I mean by drum it up is like how when you have anxiety, sometimes you tap your foot and it sort of drums up the anxiety. I'm trying to
Yes.
mimic that effect with joy, excitement, and passion so that I get really stuck into the state. It's like almost automatically permeating for a period of time, causing it to not wane so quickly so that I can be in the state where I'm all automatically aware of what my excitements and passions are, so I can subsequently take action and continue the process throughout my day. That's my
Yes.
question.
There are a number of points that you are touching on there that we will try to cover. The first is the state that you are describing is what we would describe as flow. And the state of flow has often been induced in beings on your planet through the practicing of a craft. What we can draw your attention to, as we were referring to him, this transmission, is the idea of a leprechaun. He is a cobbler. The flow that he induces, one moment. There is someone at the door. We will continue. The flow, one moment. Sorry, I'm going to have to get the door. Sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm just it's not mine. No, thank you.
Hey, Ray, my question is not that important, okay? So, I mean, I'll pass. Let someone else, if there is time, you can add someone.
Oh, just the flow. Just someone came to the door. Okay, I'm going to try and get back into it. Just because I had a things there. Let me see. The image of the leprechaun is returning to us because what we were attempting to share is that he is a cobbler, and it is the craftsmanship of the flow that he experiences through the practicing of his craft that is his true abundance. The abundance of the mythical pot of gold in the translucent rainbow, that is the illusion. Therefore, you have an example of many beings on your planet who achieve that flow through the practicing of a craft that induces a type of concentrated state. And meditation or any type of repetitive toil can represent that. You also have ideas on your planet of the expression before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. And so you are correct in your idea that you can practice physical action to drum up the idea of flow. And then as you are in flow, you have some momentum. The thing that we also wanted to point out to you, though, is that it is the joy of closing that gap in the third dimension that does infuse your purpose for being here with so much exhilaration. If you wanted to always be in a state of bliss, union with source, and vibrating at over 300,000 cycles per second, you could transition to non-physical in a heartbeat, a literal heartbeat. However, you have chosen to walk in the fourth dimension because you keep raising your vibration and then catching up with yourself, plateauing, raising your vibration and then catching up with yourself. And it is the thrill of that acceleration, that escalation, the thrill of closing that gap, which is really the joy of the fourth dimension. It's that particular experience that you came to really understand, you came to really know, the closing of the gap, the getting into the flow, the learning how to drum up the flow. That is the excitement of the fourth dimension. And therefore, your description of your question is really very exciting. We would put it to you that the most exciting thing you can do is try to understand and then practice and then become a master of it. That is much more exciting than simply permeating it without cessation and not feeling yourself close the gap. Does that help?
Well, it's kind of like, kind of what, so prior to doing this, another thing I was doing was sort of like using external things like music to induce the state. But since it
Yes.
wanes so heavily after you doing it over and over again, and finding that it no longer permeated so strongly to null away whatever state of being I was naturally in so much that it gave me a false sense of empowerment, allowing me to have thoughts and ideas of us that come only in that state of being, and not having those anymore, it automatically makes me unsure of what to do, sort of uncertain, in limbo, and that's the state I don't prefer, which is why I decided to try and mimic the effect and induce it into myself completely internally, so that I can get into a state where I feel inspired and creative again, so that I get into flow and don't have to think so much so rationally, because I found that it created a lot of challenges in my life because I'm no longer in the flow. So that's why
Yes.
I'm wondering if you have any advice on how to drum up the state of being by choosing to be in a state and then getting it drummed up so it does not wane as much, so that I can at least get to a point where I can take some action instead of just getting a little bit of a high, but it not permeating as well enough throughout my body to make my mind cohesive enough to get the ideas. It'll be like I feel good, but I'm still compartmentalized. So that's the challenge. So it's
Yes.
like I haven't been able to achieve the state of being required to get to a threshold where I can feel, yeah, in alignment? Thanks, Ray. That's my question. If you have any advice for that.
Yes, well, we do see that when we look at the practice that you are explaining or describing, there is the effort to overcome the challenges of the physical mind or the obstacles of the physical mind. When you are in alignment with your higher mind, you describe it as a knowing or a flow. And that is the recognition that you are, in fact, experiencing who you really are. You experience more possibilities, more potential, more excitement, because you have recognized that you are, in fact, your higher self, not your physical mind. But you are describing that that sense of alignment is interrupted with the intrusive thoughts of the physical mind, which tell you that you couldn't possibly sustain momentum around this feeling, that you haven't even achieved anything by feeling this way, that you haven't taken enough actions, and that you are always destined to land on your back in the third dimension, feeling separated from source. And we will tell you that is the physical mind working very hard to recommandeer your vessel, if you will. It is not an obstacle. It is just a coming to awareness of all of your different component selves. You have a higher mind, you have a physical mind, you have an emotional body. You are describing the relationship between all of them quite intelligently and quite beautifully, and that you are constantly working at resolving the relationship between your component cells. And we will tell you that you are doing that even in this endeavor. And if you are able to allow yourself to recognize that the physical mind will always attempt to insert itself into the experience of your alignment with your higher self, you will find that you will be able to quiet it more easily. Just talk with it. Allow your higher self to thank it for its contribution, but that you are going to stay in alignment for a longer period. This time, we would congratulate you on how far you have come, commend you on how far you have come, and encourage you that it will only get easier the more that you practice recognizing the reality that your higher mind is the most robust part of you, and that the more you are able to let that settle into your being, the less your physical mind will grapple for ownership of your experience.
Thank you, Zariyah. Oh, sorry.
We were just going to add, if you can allow yourself to move through that process without any particular insistence, because insistence is really a trick of the physical mind, you will find that flow will become incrementally more constant and less perceived of as something you need to drum up, if that helps.
Thank you, Zariyah. I appreciate the encouragement. I guess I'll work on appreciating my physical mind a bit more.
Yes, indeed. We wouldn't work too hard. You can just go ahead and appreciate.
Yeah.
Hi,
One
Zariyah. Hi, Zariyah.
Hello.
I would like to have your comment on the following message from Bashar. The message is, you only are who you are in this moment. Any other moment in your life, present or past, is actually parallel lifetime, a complete different soul in a different reality within time and space.
Yes.
You simply experience one moment and then the next, like 4 frames of a movie. Nothing truly is carried over from one moment to the next, other than consciousness itself. Yeah, for this message, I have a hard time to understand it. Could you please provide comments?
Yes, well, in one sense, Bashar is forensically explaining the true nature of reality. If you can imagine that everything that has ever or will ever happen is happening now, then the idea of what you would consider your past is happening now to parallel versions of yourself, which are, in a sense, their own unique identities that you have threaded together to make a linear timeline. So we would describe it as forensic dissection of the nature of reality is indeed an accurate description of reality. However, in one sense, it might also be important to remember that you chose to come into the 3rd dimension, moving into the 4th dimension, because you had constructed for yourself the idea of a linear and continuous timeline that has an unfolding that allows you to move through the arc of a story. And it is through that arc of a story that you can explore certain themes in a very experiential way. And so the focus on the idea of yourself as multiple souls experiencing multiple moments of all that ever has or will be in this now moment, the knowledge of that is not something that necessarily serves you in the experience of your story arc, of the theme of the timeline that you came to explore in that sense. Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
You are so welcome.
Jeffrey, would you like to ask? Zariyah, Jeffrey had a question about his casino jackpot dream. Can you please elaborate on that?
Jackpot. Yes, well, in fact, it was some type of premonition of what we have been discussing here, that the idea of an illusory jackpot, something in the dream state, which is in a sense what you would consider the non-physical state, is the recognition in you that abundance in that form is just one representation that does not necessarily reveal the depth of abundance that you are revealing to yourself in this unfolding of your recognition of the true nature of reality, the abundance of immortality, the abundance of multidimensionality, the abundance of the ever unfolding now, the abundance of your counterpart selves. These are really the abundances that you are realizing. And the symbol of the jackpot is the symbol of euphoria that comes with your recognition of true abundance. if you think of the ideas of scarcity that have defined the third dimension, they are based on a version of reality that is in denial of these concepts. They are the idea that your time is scarce and limited, that your vitality is scarce and limited, that your self is unidimensional and will expire. Those senses of scarcity drive much of the fear thinking on your timeline and on your planet. And therefore, once those ideas of scarcity are turned on their head, you will drop into and indeed hit a jackpot of true abundance like you have never hit before. Does that help?
I'm sure it does. Thank you very much. Wonderful session. No more questions.
We thank you for this co-creation and we bid you good day.
How exciting.
Oh
Quite
my
exciting.
goodness.
Thank you so much.
you.
I felt so frustrated that that person would not stop knocking on my door.
No, that was a great learning for us over here. We had so much of insights on that.
Yeah, I think it was something I need to work with as well. You know, I think there's something about that I need, like, I could feel my physical mind, you know, really coming up there. Anyway, thanks so much, guys. Thank you so much. And
Thank you.
I better go. So I'll see you soon. Thank you.
We stretched the time. I had to
That's
get you
it. No,
up
that's fine. That's fine. Thank you so
Thank
much
you
for
all.
coming. Yeah, we'll
Thank
speak to
you.
you soon.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so
Good night.
much. Have a
Bye.
great week,
Yes.
everyone.
Cheerio.
Bye.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.